Welcome back to the show where we run you through all the Dolphins news you need to know about. After you run through the news you need to know about, we run you through the fan Q&A, we answer fans' questions. Some very interesting news, so let's get into it. Before we get into the news, and I'm sure everybody's going to roll their eyes if you are listening to this video, but obviously everybody knows we need the Chiefs to beat the Broncos, and then we need to beat the Jets, and then we're in the playoffs. Just wanted to say that up front, because I don't want to, everybody knows that if you're a Dolphins fan, especially if you're listening to this show. So let's get into the first news story. Dolphins want to re-sign Tyler Huntley. This comes from Pro Football Rumors. This is what Tyler Huntley had to say. Quote, "There's really no real source to this. I guess this is from Barry Jackson of the Miami Herald. Tyler Huntley said, quote, I got a good feeling I'm going to be home for a little bit. I'm going to be down in Miami a little bit. It's all God's plans, but I've got a good feeling I'll be home for a little bit," is what Tyler Huntley had to say. So I guess that's straight from Tyler Huntley that I guess he expects to be in Miami. Again, that was a report from the Miami Herald. He played really well against the Cleveland Browns. He's a much better player than Skylar Thompson. He isn't, obviously Skylar's biggest, I would say, fault is the fact that he just looks like a deer in headlights every time he's in. Tyler is very calm, cool, and collected. I think he's a very good backup. Talent-wise, he's a pretty good backup quarterback. I don't know if, I'm the most comfortable with him being the future backup quarterback for the team, especially next year, and obviously Tua, who could potentially miss 7 games this year, or maybe I think 8 games, half of a season, for God's sakes. And it's do we really want the season to fall on his shoulders? I don't know if we've seen enough for him. He's a good backup quarterback. If you look at the backup quarterbacks around the league, yeah, he's better than a lot of them physically. But I don't know if he necessarily fits the system the best, and I don't know, maybe the Dolphins could do something in the draft. He had one pretty solid game against the Cleveland Browns, even though at times it wasn't great. I remember in the first half, there was a lot of people, Dolphins fans, Omar Kelly, a lot of beat writers too, where it's if this is what Tyler Huntley's going to be in this offense and how poorly some of the stuff was ran, then what's the reassurance this is going to be good in the future? I don't know. I'm not sold on it yet. I wouldn't say Tyler Huntley's the guy moving forward or for the job. He could be a good backup quarterback somewhere else. I don't know if he necessarily fits what we like to do as an offense the best. So maybe, I don't know. We'll see. I do think the draft has some pretty interesting younger prospects that could be late round picks. Maybe a Jackson Dart from Ole Miss, someone like that who might fall in the draft. Maybe they could pick him up in the second round to back Tua up. Just I don't know. We'll see. I'm not entirely sold on Huntley yet, but he did play very good football for us. There were some moments where it wasn't so great, but for the most part, it was pretty good. Definitely not sold, though. And I don't think the Dolphins should be either. I still think that's a position they still need to evaluate and not just be oh, yeah, he's the guy next year. It's fine if he's on the roster and he fights for it in preseason. Yeah, that's totally cool. But I don't think he's the stamp him future backup quarterback. He's definitely better than Skylar. So let's go to the next news story. This is the best update we have on Tua's injury situation. This comes from Pro Football Rumors. Mike McDaniel quote said not his hip. Where's the exact quote? Here it is. Mike McDaniel said Tua's status for the last game of the season against the Jets is, quote, a gray area. Not a great answer. Apparently he heard it against Houston, then heard it again, re-aggravated, and I believe we heard about it before the 49ers game. Then he heard it again, re-aggravated it again in the 49ers game, and then I guess it even got worse in practice, according to the article. So hopefully with a week off, he's better. Obviously the team's much better when he's playing. Yeah, very unlucky. Again, apparently heard it in Houston on one of those hits. It's just bad luck if you're a Dolphins fan at the end of the day. At the very least, I just would like to see Tua play the last 2 weeks of the season as a fan. Obviously, we didn't get that against Cleveland. Hopefully, we get that in the finale, just because the team is more fun to watch. I mean, this is going to be the last potentially could be the last Dolphins game that we get for a long time. So I would at least like it to be, the best team that we could. And Tua, to me, is a good player, and I enjoy watching him play football. So, I would like to see that. So hopefully he can play. And hopefully the hip injury. And it's such a weird, every time anyone's hurt. And, this brings up another thing about Mike McDaniel. He's way overly cautious, and it hasn't worked. I mean, it just hasn't. We've had so many injuries in his 3 years here. He's so overly cautious when it comes to injuries. Even putting Tua on IR early in the season when they clearly didn't need to, but they crumpled under the peer pressure of the media, which who cares? They have no idea. They literally, the stuff that the people were saying about Tua was insane. And they have no idea what, they're not, and none of them were doctors. So, and, Mike McDaniel has always been this way since he came here. Even with all the rest days that Teron Armstead takes and still can't stay on the field. Tyreek Hill, who admittedly said that the rest days don't help him, and the same Tua said the same thing, how it has been affecting the on-field production, and it's like that stuff needs to stop next year. It just does. If Tyreek Hill himself is saying he's fine, then let him play. And again, there have been some complaints. I mean, Calais Campbell said before he got to Miami that, there was a reputation for this team not working as hard in practice. Now, he said that wasn't true. He himself said this is a hard working football team. But the rest and the overly cautious injury stuff definitely has affected some of the stuff in the preparation, clearly, for some of the games. And hopefully that stuff can kind of just bring that back a little bit. Just a little bit. And that's why I'm kind of worried that they're kind of doing this with Tua right now. It's I don't know. I hope it's not that. I hope it's not, let's overly be cautious with the situation. Even, I don't know. We'll see. I definitely think that's a problem, though, that needs to be tweaked. Odell Beckham was a great example of that. The fact that they were okay with him not being with the team the entire offseason, that's ridiculous. That should never happen. They should never have signed that contract or even offered him a contract. How in the world how does that make any sense? He doesn't play football until the regular season. Yeah, no. You can go back to Europe or wherever the heck he said he was for all of those months. That's the kind of mentality that I'm not a fan of. And if you can't practice, then you don't want to. Then go somewhere else. That's just not. And some of it's just because they're old, like Teron Armstead and stuff. I just hope we can hopefully we can dial back some of that stuff. But by all accounts, everybody who's around the building, even the most cynical of people when it comes to the beat writers, do say that they do practice hard, they do work hard. Tua has a really good reputation with that. So I don't think that's the problem. I just think some of this overly cautious stuff, it just doesn't. It's player friendly to an extent, I guess, but it clearly does hurt the product on the field. I don't think there's really anything else newsworthy. there was something. I guess we can update the. Okay, this is enough something. No, this is something we have to talk about. This last news story comes from Pro Football Rumors. Dolphins wide receiver Tyreek Hill has been playing through a torn ligament in his wrist. This has been reported on multiple times throughout the season. Tyreek said, quote, "My mindset is like, suck it up, wait till the end of the season and continue to battle with my brothers because you never know when it's going to end." Okay, this is ridiculous. The Tyreek Hill situation is going to be really interesting in this offseason because he has not looked good all year. He just hasn't. Physically, his speed, I don't know if it's just from the wear and tear of the last 2 years and it just has kind of caught up to him, or he's literally lost a step. I hope it's not that he has literally lost a step. But not only that, but he's just not been playing well. Like, physically, he doesn't look the same. And he's had a lot of issues with drops this year. He should have had, his stats should look a lot better than they do. Let's just put it that way. I don't want to get on a ramble and all the things he's messed up this year. But, yeah, and you know what? A sneaky need for the Dolphins. And all you got to do is watch the 49ers play football. It's the same it's relatively the same scheme. We are on the same scheme. And you can see how it benefits them with more physical players at those positions. They need a bigger physical receiver. I think that's a kind of a big need for the offense, especially in the red zone. Even though we're pretty good in the red zone when you look at the numbers. Tua's red zone numbers are some of the best ever in the history of the league. So, especially for a pocket passer. So, it would be even better if we could get someone like that. And it would just help everything. Like, the run game, the pass game off play action. We won't have to switch personnel as much. Stuff that I've been complaining about with this offense. So, that's something that they're going to have to look into. The Odell Beckham thing, honestly, just would never have worked. It didn't work. Maybe they thought it could because he played in the Rams offense, which does require a lot of that kind of stuff, like that kind of dirty work. And clearly he's not the same player or has the same mindset that he had when he was with LA. So that didn't work. So they need to get someone like that, preferably in the slot. And, every time I watch Deebo Samuel play, I'm like, God, I just wish we had someone like that. Because and the closest thing we have to that is Jonnu. And we've already seen what a player like that could do in this offense. So hopefully that can somehow get addressed in the offseason. But I do think it's a sneaky need. The average height of our receivers is kind of comical, even Malik Washington. And it would be nice, especially since we throw over the middle so much, to get bigger, more talented players that can do some of that stuff. Justin Jefferson, there are so many receivers I can point out to that are bigger players that dominate on those routes, and it just makes it easier for the quarterback too. So I do think that's a sneaky need for the team. And again, Tyreek Hill, just a spade is a spade. He has not played well, and I do think he hasn't physically looked the same. He definitely looked better against the Browns, but they're trying to lose games. Even though he was going up against some good corners with Emerson and for a little bit Denzel Ward, but he looked better in that game. But he definitely hasn't looked the same. So hopefully that gets figured out. So that is it for the news. Let's get into the Dolphins-Browns game. And I feel like there were some kind of interesting things I want to talk about. I want to start defensively really quick because I think really just an underrated unit. They've had their moments. The Packers game was one of them. And the 49ers game wasn't the best defense. Well, that's not true. It was pretty good. But I would say there's another game that I'm not thinking of right now. Some of the Bills games. Those games, I think, when you look at them, it's like, yeah, like, all right, we did not tackle well in those games at all. The Raiders game. There have been moments of bad defense, but for the most part, this unit's been very good, especially on the most important down, which is third down. And I think the scheme and the culture that Weaver has brought really showed up in this game. We were physical on defense in this game. This is the most physical, and I hope we can kind of just carry this in for the rest of the year and into the next year, because I saw this in preseason, and we've seen it in moments in other games, but I feel like it was kind of definitely the most complete regular season, just hitting physical football on the road in the cold weather. I mean, I wish we would have played like that against the Packers, because we really brought that mentality in this game, and you could see it when you were watching the football game. So I'm excited. I'm glad. He probably won't survive after next season. He probably will get poached, but he is a great defensive coordinator. And it was a really phenomenal. There were some seriously really good decisions that were made in the offseason. And the draft. I think the draft class is actually pretty good, and I felt like that showed up in this game as well. And Anthony is definitely one of them. Some other performers in this game defensively. I just want to shout out Jordan Brooks. He's done a phenomenal job this year. He's had a very good season. I really am excited for the future of him with this defense, especially if we can get another middle linebacker. That's definitely, I think, in my opinion, top 2 in needs is middle linebacker, especially in this defense, which really requires it. And I think would help out the defense a lot if they can get somebody out there. I don't know whether it's in the draft or free agency, and pair them up with Brooks. That could be a very formidable duo for a long time. I don't think Brooks is like a number 1. Like, he's not in the higher echelon of those players, but he's definitely an above, I would say, a very good starter in the NFL, and which is good. And he's been very, very good for us this year. Had one of his best games in this game. It was called for one of the dumbest penalties I've ever seen. Calais Campbell had another phenomenal game. He'd made plays that I was like, a 38-year-old should never make against the Browns. He played really well. Chop, who's had a phenomenal year. He didn't do too much in this game, but he did affect some plays, which was nice, like he has done all year. Manuel Ogba had a good game in this game. Jalen Ramsey, Kader Kohu, and one thing I want to point out before we move on from the defense is how Weaver has really adjusted personnel. Kader Kohu played some outside corner in this game. Holland played a lot of slot corner, which I thought was interesting. In this game, he's played 3 safeties. Elijah Campbell took a lot of snaps. Basically, kind of as like that robber player in the middle of the field, which is what the Bills do a lot. And I'm happy that he did that, because it's really helped our defense in the middle of the field. And, moving some of those pieces around. And really using Holland, who's a very good man coverage player. And he proved that in this game. I think he gave up like 1 catch, and that was it in the slot. So, just Weaver is such a good coach. And, I think that pretty much covers the defense side of things. No, excuse me, I'm sorry. Dodson, who... I don't know, maybe he's just earned it in practice, but he played phenomenal. He had 15 tackles and an interception in this game, and he's such a versatile player because he's such a big player. He could play defensive end if he wanted to, and they move him all over the place. And to just find someone that versatile like that is very rare. And if he continues to play like that, he definitely will make the team next year. So he could, at the very least, be a very good player for depth, but he's played really well, and you can use him in so many different ways, and been very, very good. And hopefully he can kind of Tyrell Dodson. I don't know if I called him Tyler, but Tyrell Dodson. I don't think there's really anything else defensively that I want to mention. Like Zach Sealer, some of those guys who have done great all year. But yeah, I think those are the things I really wanted to bring up, at least for this game. And he can definitely help us in the run defense. Oh, Quentin Bell's another one. Dude, Quentin Bell, he's played such good football for us. He's been honestly, you could argue one of top 3 or 2 run defenders on our team. I forgot to mention Quentin Bell. And he's had a few good plays. I think he's like at least 2 sacks this year, maybe 1. He's had a couple pressures too. He has a future too on this team. It was a really good rookie class this year. A lot of really good players moving forward. I believe Quentin was undrafted. And moving forward, he's going to be a good player. And he fits this Ravens defense really well. This Ravens scheme. Obviously, he's on the Dolphins. No, but you guys understand what I mean by that. But anyway, moving on to the offensive side of the football, really, Tyreek Hill finished one of his better games. He had 100 yards on 9 receptions. Malik Washington had one really bad drop, but I think he's getting better, which is good. Jonnu Smith, who's been great all year. A-Chain, who was not used as much in this game, oddly enough. Very strange. I don't know why. Maybe it's because they didn't want to be in shotgun as much. I don't know. Again, Tua, who I think is an elite player at reading the field. Tyler Huntley isn't as good as that. Maybe they just, I don't know. For whatever reason, maybe they thought, more I formation, more under center. Craycraft had a big catch. Jalen Wright really didn't. I don't even think he might have gotten a carry in this game. Tyler Huntley. Tyler Huntley was our lead rusher with 52 yards. This is an issue. And again, Isaiah Wynn was rotated out in and out of this game. Eichenberg, they got to stop doing that. God bless. Guard is another position this team desperately needs next year. They cannot get dominated this bad, and especially with how bad their run game numbers have been the tail end of this season. They've been thrown around terribly. It has not even been close in some of these games, and how bad they've done in the interior offensive line. They have to fix it. I'm sick of them making excuses and talk. Guard position isn't ever. Look at the tape, and I'm sure Mike McDaniel feels that way. I mean, he's already commented on it and how we've been losing the line of scrimmage too often this year. So that has to be fixed in the offseason. And Robert Jones and Eichenberg are just not the answer. And honestly, they just have to get one guard. They can retain Isaiah Wynn or get some cheaper free agent. I don't know. But get someone who's a good, high-level, just a good starter in the league. And who isn't going to get thrown around like that. And, that's one of the bigger needs of we talked about. It's one of the bigger needs of the team. We talked about Tyler Huntley. He had a good game, made some nice throws to Tyreek Hill. Off-play action, made a really nice scramble with his feet for a touchdown. And then obviously had a nice touchdown throw to Jonnu Smith as well. The receiver depth, I think Malik Washington is going to be a good player for us moving forward. But again, like I said, it would be nice to get a more physical player. Bigger physical player at that position. Jalen Wright, who's just basically kind of phased out of the season, had some nice plays this year, but really hasn't been utilized that much. And hopefully his development can kind of get start trending in the right direction, especially when we talk about throwing the football to him and stuff like that. Because he has talent in that area as well. And he's a good player. He's a talented player. And hopefully we can... And again, we have to get better in the trenches. I mean, I don't know how many times I got to say it. I think Brewer is a very good center. I don't think we have to do anything when it comes to... He fits the scheme, too. He's a very athletic player. We just have to get a guard. Guard, middle linebacker, safety, corner. That's really, I think, where the team needs to focus. I would say guard and middle linebacker are the most glaring things that they have to fix. And then obviously Javon Holland. And the safety positions are in shambles too, especially with Holland being a free agent. So they have to figure that stuff out. I'm very excited. It's awesome that we're in the thick of it the last week of the year. Hopefully Tua is healthy. Yeah, hopefully we can make the playoffs. And who knows what happens. Maybe we can finally break the streak this year of, 20 years old at this point, and bring a playoff victory home to Miami. And hopefully next year we can get a home playoff game. We all desperately need that as a fan base. So that is it. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one.